Mr. Chairman. I'm the longest serving member on this committee. And I think it's rich that the other side of the dais up here is talking about a federal takeover of elections. When I sat in this committee just a few years ago with a bill called H.R. 1 that Speaker Nancy Pelosi pushed forward, it was a 600-page bill that was a total federal unconstitutional takeover of elections. It included provisions that were not just challenging to impose on the states, but impossible to impose on the states. So when we're discussing a way of making our election systems with more integrity, I find it disingenuous to hear that this is a federal takeover by those that have authored one of the greatest and most exclusive federal takeover election bills ever. And from the looks of folks at the table and in the audience, I think you all remember H.R. 1 and what it also included the federal government helping pay for campaigns. So it was quite an interesting time that we were here, and I just find it's even that much more interesting now that the folks who authored the greatest federal takeover of elections are complaining about wanting somebody to prove their citizenship before they vote. With that, Secretary Gray, there's been a lot of critics and of election security efforts in general will claim Congress is requiring states to engage in expensive changes to their election system. Have you experienced that it was very expensive for the state of Wyoming to implement its requirement for documenting proof of United States citizenship for registering to vote?
Congressman, Mr. Chairman, it was seamless. Low cost, no cost, and I haven't seen any cost yet other than revising training materials, and it has just been a seamless approach in implementing these federal statutes.
What about the provisions within this bill? Do you anticipate that that would create a lot of expense to implement what's in here in the state of Wyoming?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congressman, not anticipating really any expense, and the federal government has a role to play in setting these baseline standards. I mean, countering a little bit the testimony from a Democratic Congresswoman previously, I mean, you look at NVRA, HAVA, the Civil Rights Act. These are all bills that were supported by the Democrat Party that set baseline standards for elections, and that's what the MEGA Act and the SAVE Act is doing. So it's really incredible, some of these claims that are being made by the Democrat Party.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, it seems like we've entered into an era of politics to where it really doesn't matter what the core principles are, as long as you can hang your political opponent with it. That's all that really matters these days. One last question for you. Would having a uniform procedure such as in this bill and security standards make it less expensive for states to run federal elections?
Mr. Chairman, Congressman, I think having a uniform standard really clarifies things, and I think it's going to be very low cost or no cost. I mean, really, it's just revising training materials. That's it, and there's really no cost attached to that.
Well, thank you for that. Representative Bolin, real quickly in the remainder of my time, thank you for being here. When I was a state representative, I had the opportunity to come and speak before Congress, and so we appreciate your time. The Department of Justice recently asked for Michigan to turn over portions of their centralized voter list in order to verify whether or not Michigan is compliant with the voter list maintenance procedures required by the National Voter Registration Act. In response, Secretary Benson wrote, "The law does not support this assertion. The collection, use, and dissemination of private information should be for a necessary and lawful purpose." My question is protecting the integrity of voter rolls a necessary and lawful purpose, in your opinion?
Well, protecting the voter rolls, I would say protecting elections and the voters is more important. We do know that our Secretary of State has a history of making up her own laws. While she's a Secretary of State, she is not a legislator, and I think that that's a reminder of that. And I would say that we need to make sure that we are not making these dictates. There have been these interpretations by Benson inclusive of Benson, over the years that really aggravated the situation. And I would say it led to a lot of the disruption in the 2020 election. Our Secretary of State has we had to subpoena her by our Oversight Committee, continues to refuse practical things, a manual for election administrators, under the guise that that's to protect the voters. No, I think we all need to know and understand the standards of training for our election workers.
Thank you for your time. I yield back.